Welcome back. So last time you saw me get the redrive all together, and this is the first startup since then.
Clear prop.
So the goal here is to make sure that the governor is actually adjusting the pitch of the prop, and at the same time make sure it has no leaks. And I'm fairly confident about the first thing, but the second one remains to be seen because of the way the design works, but we'll just see how it works out. So I warmed up the engine and then gave it a bit of a run up there, and I set the, well actually while it was running up I adjusted the prop to change the pitch coarseness, and as you can see here, once it sort of gets into it, the gauge starts moving there once pressure starts building from the governor. And I think it's partly because there was some air in the system initially, but also too, because this gauge that I'm using is supposedly not supposed to be used for oil. You'll see it sort of jumping around quite a lot, but overall I got the prop to move when it was supposed to, and just did one test, and then I shut it down to see if there was any problems with anything, if there's any leaks or anything else, and actually ended up with I think the air conditioning system sprung a leak somewhere, one of those hoses, because all the gas, it seemed like that's what it was, all the gas was escaping. And I also ended up with a issue of a little bit of a leak coming from the governor just on one of those tubes, and then also a bit of a noise there when you were moving around, which actually turned out to be the oil seal on the front there of the main flange of the prop shaft. But anyway, this is it running up. So that was two different times that I manually adjusted the pitch on the prop, and you see each time the pressure went up and the prop, or the engine RPM dropped down. So after that, that's when I stopped it, because I realized that, well, it was working. Time to have a look at everything and make sure we don't have too many problems. And here is it. If you listen carefully on this, you'll be able to hear the noise on the prop when I move it. So that actually sounds bad, but it turned out to really be nothing. It's just this oil seal in the front there that was rubbing on the thing, and it's because it's not really lubricated. It really just needs to be a dust seal. So what I did, I just took the spring out of it, and next time I put it together, I just lubricate it with a bit more oil, and that fixed that problem. And inside this, so this guy here, this was leaking a little bit around the outside edge there through that one hole. And I wasn't sure exactly where it was coming through, but I'm pretty sure it just ran through one of those small bearings. So what I wanted to do then was basically put it back together, and I also had to shorten off the base of that shorter one there, because it was almost touching the housing there. So I shortened that, and that allowed me to tighten that one up a little bit more, and put everything back together again, and in preparation for giving it another test, because there was no damage or anything inside. Everything looked good enough. So here I am, this is the end of Wednesday now, got it all back together, just minus not having the prop put on, and everything's hooked back up again, and ready to have another test on Thursday morning. So here we are, Thursday morning, nice sunny day and not too hot actually, starting out the day, which was kind of nice. So I got the aircraft pulled out of the hangar again, and I put the prop on first thing. And if you look in here, I also put some paper towels around where those fittings come through there, just to soak up any oil that might come through, and then have an indication of where it's leaking from, which one it's leaking from. And there you can see down in there, same thing going on in there. So I was fully expecting it to leak a little bit again because I really didn't change much in there, but I wanted to run it again. So here I am starting up again. And so I warmed it up, and what I did this time was I adjusted the governor so it was like partially set to automatically adjust the prop once it's got to a certain RPM. And what I found that with the setting I had, when it got to about 3,300 RPM, the governor kicked in, and then it brought the RPM back to 3,100, as you'll see here. So even though that gauge is jumping around, you can actually hear that the engine is fairly consistently set to about 3,100 RPM. So the governor was holding enough pressure there to keep the prop blades adjusted enough, just to put enough load on the engine to bring the RPM down from 3,300 to 3,100, which is basically a success there. So it's basically working. I just need to make sure now I can get these leaks sorted out. So yeah, here I am taking the prop off again, and got my little bucket organized here to catch the oil, because there's quite a bit of oil actually ends up being in that prop in the shaft after it's been run. So I just pull the prop back enough there to let it bleed out. And so now we're on to Friday, and because I'd figured out how I was going to fix this leak there, because the same leak ended up happening, I decided I was going to run down to Summit and get the fittings and stuff that I needed. So I did that in the morning, because otherwise I would have to wait for them to be shipped until Monday, and I wanted them over the weekend. And so what you see I've done here as well, I got a little plug there to fill that other hole that was off to one side. And what I did was I just ground down the one side of the thread there, so this other tube can go in place there, so it's actually kind of flattened on the one side, and it still screws in, and I just set it on the appropriate place to grind it down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill another hole in here and put another AN6 drain in there, 1/4 inch NPT. And right now I've got the whole thing clocked, so it's a little bit off straight. But anyway, that drain's going to be on a little bit of an angle, and that's going to catch anything else that goes into the housing, and it's going to Y into this setup that I already have there. And I'll be using some high temp RTV around those other tubes, so nothing leaks out past those as well. And when I went down to Summit, I ended up picking up the wrong fittings. This is just a regular hose end, not for a PTFE tube, and this is what I wanted. So I ended up having to get in the car again and drive down through the nasty Atlanta traffic, another hour and 15, and back again. So that was pretty much my day in the car on Friday today. Anyway, I got the right fittings here. So tomorrow, Saturday, I'll be in there and I'll get all this sorted out. And then after that, it's time for some taxi testing. I don't think I'll have any more problems with the governor once this leak's sorted out. So hopefully next week's videos will start to get exciting, seeing that. Anyway, that's the update for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch up with you next week.